It is possible to publish tabletop role-playing games and resources for little or no money. My name is Matt. I have published more than 50 tabletop RPG resources, including the best-selling Books of Random Tables. I went full-time in 2019. First, before I get into tactics, I need to talk about the most important thing about self-publishing, and that is mindset. You have to be clear on why you want to do this. You need to ask yourself some questions. Why do you want to publish tabletop RPGs? Why do you want to publish adventures or campaign settings? You must be able to answer these questions because publishing is difficult. Nietzsche said, "He who has a why to live for can bear almost any how." My why started when I was 9 years old and I played Dungeons & Dragons for the first time. The next day I ran my mom through a dungeon. This game changed my life. Tabletop role-playing games were an instant love for me. I began playing as many role-playing games as I possibly could. I also started creating them within weeks or months of having just played for the first time. One of my first games was called Jungle Hunt. It was just a reskin of basic D&D, but you were big game hunters in Africa. But my love for tabletop RPGs is only part of my why. In 2014, an old friend of mine passed away. He was 36 years old. He left a wife and 3 children behind. Back in the day when we were in our teens and early 20s, he was one of my main playtesters on a game that I had created called Anarchy. At his funeral, I encountered many old friends, and I started getting the same question over and over again. Many of them said, "Whatever happened to Anarchy? We used to play with Shane and you. Whatever happened to that? What did you do with it?" I told them the truth. Nothing happened with it. I had given up on the project years and years before and just let it sit in a drawer or on hard drives, and I hadn't looked at it in a very, very long time. However, when I came home from the funeral, I had decided something. I had decided to publish Anarchy just so I could write Shane's name in it and dedicate the book to him. So my love of tabletop role-playing games and my desire to honor a friend of mine, that's my why. That's why I wanted to start publishing tabletop role-playing games and resources. But that leads into another area of mindset that we need to talk about. What are your goals and what do you want to accomplish by publishing RPGs? Again, you have to be clear on these things. Why? Because this is difficult. You're going to have to learn a lot of skills. You're going to have to spend a lot of time learning the ins and outs of publishing, and it is difficult. So we need to know what our goals are and what we want to accomplish. So back then, all the way back in 2014, I realized I wanted to publish role-playing games, partly because of my love of tabletop role-playing games, and my goal was to honor my friend by dedicating the book to him. But then, in 2015, when I was finally able to publish Anarchy, yes, it took over a year, and the book was filled with mistakes because I didn't know what I was doing. I wasn't working in publishing or anything like that. Most of this was new to me. But when I published that book, and I sold a few copies, I started thinking to myself, I love this. I love working on role-playing games. I enjoyed the publishing process as well. Why don't I set some other goals? So I set a goal to make $300 a month, and I accomplished that goal. And I thought a little bit harder about this, and I set a new goal. And when I accomplished that goal, I thought, why not set the goal of going full-time at publishing tabletop RPGs and resources? And that's how dicegeeks.com was born. And as the prophet of my generation, Eminem said, I was playing in the beginning, but the mood all changed because now I knew I really had to treat this like a full-time job and I really had to go after it. And because I had a strong why, I was able to do that. So the key here is to be clear on our goals and our why. If you just want to publish something so you can give it to your friends, great. Set that as your goal. If you want to go full-time, That's great as well. Set that as your goal, but understand that with each of those, it's going to require different things and different levels of commitment and time that you're going to need to put into this if you want to accomplish those goals. Of course, the scope of our goals can change over time, just like mine did. You can start out just to hand something to your friends and then realize you enjoy the process and you want to do more of it. That's great. You may publish one book and say, I'm done and I'm never going to publish again. That's okay. Whatever your goals are, as long as they meet with your goals, not anybody else's, your goals, it's totally fine. I know this has been a lot of stuff about mindset, and probably most people are saying, when are you going to get into tactics? Well, we're going to start doing that right now. So first, I want to start off with 3 principles of low to no cost RPG publishing. The first one is don't get overwhelmed. The second is do the best you can. And the third is do everything yourself. Let's break these down. Don't get overwhelmed. If you start imagining everything that goes into publishing a book or a tabletop RPG or a resource, you are going to quickly overwhelm yourself and you're probably not even going to get started. We have to break this whole process down into small pieces so we can tackle each one of those small pieces one by one. So this is key. Do not overwhelm yourself by thinking too far ahead. Think of a project and then see what that first piece is that you need to do and make it small. Accomplish it and then move on. But again, don't overwhelm yourself. 2, do the best you can do. We should always strive for excellence in whatever we do, of course. So when you set your mind to something, we want to try to do the best that we can do. But I want to reframe this a little bit because I see this a lot with people when they start to try to publish. I am talking about low to no cost publishing. So when we start our publishing journey, we should not look at Wizards of the Coast and say, I need to produce a book that looks this good. We shouldn't look at Paizo and say, oh, I need to publish a book that looks this good. If we do that, we are setting ourselves up for failure. Why? They spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on books. I'm talking about low to no cost. We don't have that kind of money. We're going to do the best we can do. And yes, this is going to invite criticism from people online. People will say, it looked like a beginner designed the book. That's probably true. We're not all graphic designers. But when we start our publishing journey, we're going to have to do the layout ourselves, most likely. So we're going to do the best we can do. And then the next project's going to be better, and the next one's going to be better. It's just the way it needs to be because we don't have the money for this. Do everything yourself. This is the third point that I want to make right here. The main way we are able to keep costs low or not even spend any money at all when publishing is because we're doing this work by ourselves. We're going to learn how to design. We're going to learn how to write. We're going to learn how to edit. We're going to learn how to do layout. We're going to learn how to make a compelling cover. We're going to do it all. That will keep our costs low or maybe even free. Of course, when I have talked about low to no cost publishing in the past, this point is usually the one that gets the most pushback because people will say, well, if you do everything yourself, the book or the project is not going to be as good as if you could bring in a professional graphic designer or a professional writer to do some world building or lore writing for the project. Well, of course, if we could hire people, the project would most likely be of a higher quality. But most people can't hire people. I certainly couldn't hire anybody when I first started publishing, and I still can't really hire anybody. And all the way back in 2014 and 2015, when I started publishing, no one, including my closest family and friends, would even proofread my writing. So I, again, here am talking about low to no cost publishing. If you have money to hire people, hire them. That would be great. But if you're here watching this video, you're probably thinking about how you can do it for no money. And that's what I'm talking about. We're going to have to do it ourselves. We're going to have to learn all the skills necessary. And like I said in point 2, we're going to do the best we can do, not the best somebody else can do. And also, Please don't kid yourself into thinking that you can ask friends or family to do work for free. The only way this works is if they are perhaps a partner in the business with you, or have a strong why and a strong reason that they would be interested in publishing tabletop RPGs. But please don't ask your friends to do this work for free. It just sets yourself up for heartache, because your friend may be willing to help you and support you because they love you and they care about you. But when they need to put food on the table for their family or spend time with their kids, they're going to choose that over working for free. And it can just cause problems. Stay away from that. Focus on doing the work yourself. If you have a partner who's all in on publishing role-playing games, that would be amazing. That's not my experience, so I can't speak to that. But if you do have that, that is fantastic. And like I said, if you can hire people, you should probably watch other videos, because I don't know anything about that. Now, to get started when we're publishing, we want to start small, and I would urge you to choose between Drive-Thru RPG or the DM's Guild to publish your projects on, and I would start with digital products only. So let's look at those real quick. Start small. Don't try to tackle that 400-page RPG tome that's been rattling around in your mind since you were 12 years old. Don't try to do that right out the gate. Start small. Think of projects that are only a page long, a couple pages long, 10 pages long, especially if you have no experience publishing. If you work in publishing and that's your day job, you probably will have a better handle on doing something like this, even if you haven't written a project before or something like that. But I'm just talking from my own experience. I didn't have experience publishing. I had some experience in writing from college and from my day job, but publishing was all new to me. So you need to start small. Think of a small project. Just what I did with my book, Anarchy. I didn't worry about making up new rules. I based it on the Open D6 system, so I didn't have to create an entirely new rule set for my first project. And now that was too overly ambitious. I would recommend, if you're going about this more methodically, start with something small. 1 page, 2 pages. Start small. You can always grow later. But if you start at the beginning and say, okay, I'm going to make a 600-page rule book, you'll probably never get there, because you won't get those quick wins, because it's going to take so long to produce that product. Drive-Thru RPG or DM's Guild. These are the two platforms that I recommend starting publishing on, but not both. I want you to choose. If you want to use Dungeons & Dragons IP, like you want to write about Eberron or the Forgotten Realms, or you want to make new backgrounds or new classes for Dungeons & Dragons, you're going to publish on the DM's Guild. If you want to make campaign settings, your own games, adventures, you're going to publish on Drive-Thru RPG. You need to check this out for yourself, so you can go to Drive-Thru RPG and check out their publishing program. Drive-Thru RPG owns the DM's Guild, so it's all combined there. But I would urge you to pick one, because at the beginning you're learning so many new skills that you can quickly find yourself overwhelmed if you're trying to publish on two platforms. Digital products only. At first, limit yourself to creating PDFs or other digital files. Again, this is all about managing the overwhelm, because you are going to be learning so many new skills that adding print into the mix too early is going to cause you to want to give up, because it almost did for me, and I don't want you to go through that. You can always expand into print later, and once you get digital down, expanding into print is going to go much, much smoother than if you're trying to juggle digital and print at the same time when you've never done this before. And if you're out there thinking, well, I just want to get my books in print, I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. But my advice at the beginning is to make some small digital products only on either Drive-Thru RPG or the DM's Guild. Let's talk quickly about some different software, because we don't have to spend money to do this. There are plenty of software options that are free or cost very little money. You will need an image editing software to do the layout of your books or your projects. When I first started, I used one called GIMP. It is free online. It is like Photoshop, but it's free. Now people will complain it's not as easy to use as Photoshop. It has bugs. It's frustrating to download. Yeah, but it's free. And so you can get it for free and keep your costs down. There are also some other options like Canva and Photopea. I've used Canva a little bit. I've never used Photopea, but there are so many options out there that you can edit your images for free. You don't have to have some big outlay of cash at the start to buy the entire Adobe suite or something like that. For doing interior layout, when I first started, I used a free program called Scribus, and I learned how to use it by watching tutorials on YouTube. The same with GIMP, actually. And Scribus helped me do the interior layout of my first books. However, I can't recommend it anymore because it is now not supported by DriveThruRPG, and it caused me lots and lots of problems that I didn't even realize I was having when I first started publishing. While it allowed me to do the layout quite easily, it caused file problems and uploading problems when I tried to put my products on DriveThruRPG, and I'm serious, those problems went on for years until I realized it was Scribus. So you're going to have to look for some other options. I know there is a platform called Affinity Publisher. I've never used it, but I hear it is good and cheap or free. And again, you may be able to use Canva or Photopea. Just start searching and you will find free layout programs. Trust me, you will. Also, for doing writing, and especially for small projects, Google Docs is free. You can actually do some minor layout in there and insert images into Google Docs if you want to do a product with a very simple layout. And I'm mentioning Google Docs, probably everybody who's watching this knows about Google Docs, but I'm mentioning it because you don't have to pay for anything. It is free. You don't have to pay for Word or some other word processing software to get started with this. And it also allows you the option to save your files as PDFs, which is absolutely amazing for publishing PDFs on DriveThruRPG. A few words about art. Everyone is always asking me where I get the art for my books. Now, let me set the record straight. I do not use AI-generated art. I have not used that in any of my books, even though I am accused of it daily, even on projects that I completed in 2017 or 2018. So let me say it again. I don't use AI art. Enough of that. So where do we get art, especially for the low to no cost crowd? Well, the first category is stock art. So there are some great websites, iStock, Shutterstock. You can go into those platforms and search through the art and find some great images for $12, $32. Now, when I started, I would definitely focus on the cover alone and pay for a nice image to go on the cover, because buying stock art to go throughout the entire book can be too expensive. Also, DriveThruRPG has a great catalog of stock art. I use a lot of Dean Spencer's art. Absolutely fantastic resource, reasonably priced. You can probably find something, especially a striking piece of cover art. So stock art, that's one place where you can start. But if you need free art, there are a couple other options. The first one would be sites like Unsplash.com or Pexels.com. They have thousands and thousands, if not tens or hundreds of thousands of high-quality images for free that you can use in your books with no problem about rights or anything like that. But since we're not paying for them, of course we have to get creative and we have to use our imaginations and all of our skills to make those images work in our books. It can be done, and they can look amazing. The cover of my Book of Random Tables Cyberpunk is a free image from Unsplash.com with a filter put over top of it from a website called Be Funky, and I think it looks quite good. Also, another resource for free images. If you are working with science fiction and you are an American citizen, you have the right to use NASA images in your works. You just have to put courtesy of NASA or something like that in the credits. That is amazing because as taxpayers, we pay for those images, so we have the right to use those images in our work. So if you're working in science fiction and you're an American citizen, use NASA images. One of the greatest resources for free images is the public domain. A treasure trove of gorgeous artwork is available in the public domain that we can use in our products and our books. So many years after an artist's lifetime, their work enters the public domain and we are free to use them. I have used public domains in many of my books, and I have been able to create amazing layouts, all for free. My book of random tables, Wild West, the artwork is done by Frederick Remington. The book looks amazing. And it was all free because all of his artwork is in the public domain. The challenge with public domain is that you have to search through thousands of images to find the ones that work for your product. But the whole point of being low or no cost means that we're going to have to spend time doing this. And don't be afraid of stock art or free images from Unsplash or Pexels or art from the public domain. It may not fit exactly your vision in your mind as you're conjuring up your book or your game, but the restriction actually can help you come up with creative solutions and result in a work that you couldn't have imagined before. Now a bit on print on demand. If you want to move into print books, there has never been a time that has been easier in the history of the world than to publish your own book in print form. It just hasn't been. Even a few decades ago, you would have had to have a large outlay of cash to pay a printer to run thousands of copies of books that you would then have to store in your basement and then figure out where to sell them. And it's all because of print on demand. We can upload our digital files of our book to Amazon.com or Ingram Spark, and they will print out gorgeous books as they are ordered. So there is no inventory, no huge outlays of cash, and it's wonderful. Now, I know in some circles, print-on-demand books are looked down upon because offset print runs, usually the books are a little bit higher quality than a print-on-demand book, but we have to get over this snobbery. I can't throw out $20,000 or $30,000 on a print run. I can't do it. So do I just want to say I can't print a book? No. I'm going to take advantage of the technology that is available, and print on demand is amazing. We can upload our files, like I said, to Amazon.com. Ingram Spark is another one you can check out, or Drive-Thru RPG as well. And by using print on demand, we save ourselves warehousing fees, shipping fees, and tons of customer service headaches, because Drive-Thru RPG, Amazon, or Ingram Spark handles all the customer service if you go through them and use their print on demand system. It's amazing. Don't stick up your nose at it. This is how we can keep publishing low to no cost. Now, I'm going to briefly touch on a few topics that honestly I cannot speak with great authority on. And if I try to speak on them, I can get myself into trouble. So I'm just going to touch on them briefly so that you are aware of them, but I cannot provide you full information on these topics. You're going to have to dig in and do some research yourself and learn some of these things. So the first one would be copyright and trademarks. In the United States, if you publish a work, it is assumed to be copyrighted. You should display the symbol on it, the little copyright symbol, if you want to protect your work, and in the credits someplace, say this work is protected, copyright by your name, if you want to protect your work. Now you can file an official copyright. Like I said, I can't really speak on these very much. You can look into it for yourself. Everything is available on Google these days. Trademark is a bit of a different beast. Again, I cannot speak on this with authority. If you want to trademark something, you put a little TM symbol by it. You can also officially register a trademark if you would like to. These are reserved for like names of things. So the name of your game, a name of a product, something like that. Copyright is for the expression of words. Like I said, I'm not an authority. I can't speak with authority on these. Please look this up yourself. Another topic would be ISBN numbers for your books. Think of an ISBN as a social security number for a book. And if you're in the United States, you can only buy ISBNs through one place, and that is called Bowker. I don't know why our system is like this. It's a very old system. Bowker was given a monopoly over ISBNs for some reason. I have no idea. If you want to look into that more, you're going to have to write your congressman or your senator because I don't understand it. If you're Canadian, I think Canada gives them out free to authors in Canada. But again, I don't understand how that works. Most modern platforms will give you a free ISBN, like Amazon.com or Ingram Spark. They'll give you a free one. It doesn't mean that they own your book, but getting a free one can restrict some of the places where you can publish your books. So I would urge you to look into ISBN numbers. When I first started out, I used free ones because I didn't have the money. Since then, I've bought my own. And that's really all I can say on the topic. Please dive in, use Google, it's your friend. Sole proprietorship versus LLC. Now again, this is for the United States. I have no idea what business formation looks like in any other country. In the United States, you can do business under your legal name, and that is a sole proprietorship. I would urge you, if you are just starting out, just to go ahead and start doing business as a sole proprietorship. Forming an LLC or a limited liability company is pretty simple, but don't let that be a roadblock. Just start publishing. Don't let forming an LLC stop you from publishing. If forming an LLC stops you from publishing or finding ISBN numbers or the copyright, if any of those things stop you from publishing, your why was not strong enough. And you probably should just give it up and do something else. That was very frank advice, but that is what I talk about at the beginning, why our why needs to be so strong and why we need to be clear on our goals. Because this is going to cause us to do some things that we don't understand and we have to look into and that we have to take seriously. Just start publishing as a sole proprietorship. If you want a bank account with your business name, most states have a doing business as certificate that you can fill out and you send a few dollars to the state. Then you can do business under a company name like I do, Dicegeeks. But the main reason you would form an LLC is not for tax purposes. It is for liability. An LLC protects you in case you are sued by a customer. Or at least this is my understanding. Again, I'm not an expert on this. Do your own research or talk to a lawyer if you want to. The LLC allows for a separation between the person and the company, and it protects you from any liability your company may have caused. Now, publishing books has very low liability. If somebody is not happy, I am more than willing to offer a refund. Think of an LLC if you were selling a food product, where if somebody ate it, they could be poisoned and die. You would need an LLC before you sold one piece of food so that your personal finances and the business would not be conflated at all. Publishing, just start as a sole proprietorship. Get going. Worry about this later. You can always file an LLC or do some tax things later. Get started. And speaking of taxes, again, I am not a tax expert. This is not official tax advice or anything like that because I can't offer that. But here is the key. You need to keep everything separate. Set up a business bank account that is separate from your personal account. I would choose a different bank even. Just set up a business account and you're going to run everything through that business account. Now, when you get some money in there, if you start making money from your products, you can transfer that over to your personal account, of course. But what that does is it keeps a record nice and clean of what was business income, what was personal income, maybe from another job, or what a spouse does. Because that way, if you get in trouble and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't figure out my taxes and the deadline's coming up, you could take all that information to a tax preparer and they will have a very easy, clear understanding that all the business stuff from publishing is over here and handled through this account. Here is all of your personal income or money from other sources over here. And that keeps clear not only business income, but business expenses as well, because this is where you can deduct some business expenses. Keep it separate. That will make your life easier. And one last thing that is super important, because as you're setting up a business bank account, you might be tempted to get a business credit card, and that can be fine. Credit cards are great tools, but I'm going to give you one stark warning. Low to no cost publishing, do not go into debt to publish your books. Just do not. Do not go into debt. I have heard of at least one or two horror stories where a person has spent $10,000 or $20,000 or $30,000 publishing a book. They didn't have that money. That wasn't discretionary income. That wasn't life savings. They put it on a credit card and it caused a disaster in their life, an absolute disaster. So we don't go into debt for this. If you are tempted to get a business credit card and you want the points and all that stuff, that's fine. Just pay it off every month. Don't pay any interest on this. Don't go into debt. If we are trying to keep our costs low, debt is not a strategy that we are going to employ. Debt, especially in America, can be a shortcut. Some people know how to use it really well. Most of us, including myself, do not know how to use it well. So do not take that shortcut. Remember, the dark side is quicker, easier, more seductive. It is not more powerful. Let's get our mindset right. Let's get a strong why. Let's set some goals. And then let's learn some skills and publish our books without breaking the bank and spending tons of money. If you want to check out my books, you can see them all at dicegeeks.com. I also put out a weekly TTRPG newsletter called the Dice Geeks Insider, where I send out awesome, fun, cool stuff that's happening in the world of tabletop role-playing games, and also game master tips and interesting tidbits about movies and whatever randomness I am thinking about at the time. I wish you the best with your RPG publishing endeavors. Please feel free to reach out. If you have any questions, you can leave them in the comments. If I am able, I will respond to them there. And, as always, keep gaming.